An interactive ACSA legislative lunch break. Megan and I will get you all of your latest news and information from the state capitol and CDE with an in-depth analysis on how it impacts your work in your school community. Plus, we are bringing on two of the greatest superintendents in the state of California, the history of public education here in California, to talk about their careers and what you need to know to support students in your schools.
The ACSA legislative lunch break starts now.
And it's a couple of minutes after 1 o'clock. We welcome you on a Wednesday to the live and interactive ACSA legislative lunch break. I'm Naj Alikhan, ACSA's Senior Director of Marketing and Communications. Megan Baer is here from ACSA's Governmental Relations Department, one of our legislative advocates. Megan, how are you today?
Doing well, Naj. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's like you've become a regular here on the show. Just for our viewers to know, Edgar is actually out sick today. This is what happens when you go to 3 conferences over 3 weeks, all in Southern California, and you have to ride Southwest on all of those, and you meet thousands of members. So that's where he is today. He's not just purposely getting out of this. But Megan, it's great to have you back. You found out that you were going to be co-hosting the show roughly about 90 minutes or so. I know that the adrenaline is pumping. I know you're excited about our guests that are coming on the show too.
Very excited. And I'm just glad that I, came fully dressed and ready for the camera this morning at work. So yeah.
and she's not wearing shorts and basketball shoes. That would be something that I would do. But yes. So Megan, thank you so much for being with us. For co-hosting the show today. I'm going to ask you a budget question in just a couple of minutes as we get into our news headlines. Coming up, Mike McCormick and Denise Wickham, two of the greatest superintendents in the state of California, are going to be with us to talk about their careers here supporting students in California public education. They'll be here in just a moment. And then as we move towards the end of the show, I already see it's over there in the chat from our comment section from our viewers. Super Bowl picks. We have a list of all-stars here to give you their Super Bowl predictions. Megan and I will give you our Super Bowl predictions as well. I have used a highly technical, highly detailed way of coming up with my Super Bowl picks, so we'll get to those in just a second. Also want to acknowledge Mina Blasi from Beaumont Unified School District, our first person on the chat. All right, Megan. Budget. We're just going to spend just a second on this. Budget proposal's been out for a little more than 2 weeks now, as you and many in the governmental relations field have said, okay, great, budget's out. The devil is going to be in the details. Well, now the details are going to be coming out tomorrow because that's when the trailer bills start coming out. So I just want to know from your perspective, what's the process moving forward once these trailer bills come out? And then what is the role of our GR team in going through some of these trailer bills?
Yeah, so the governor released his budget, but essentially it's the 30,000-foot view. It's the top lines. There's very little detail in the initial proposal that comes out. The trailer bill that is supposed to drop tomorrow is going to be all the nitty-gritty, the rules, the details. So, I'll be locking myself in my office tomorrow to read the hundreds of pages of proposals like we do every year. And that's really when we can get to work and try to lobby and advocate to refine those proposals, reject those proposals, make our own suggestions. And really, it's when the budget negotiations really start kicking off. So that process will continue. The legislature has having a series of hearings, which they've already started, to hear the governor's proposals and to weigh in with their own thoughts, and ultimately working towards that June deadline to pass a final budget.
All right. So a lot coming up over the next 36 to 48 hours. We are not on the air next week because of our ACSA governance meetings. We'll tell you in just a moment how you can be part of our special governance meetings coming up next week, but we will be on the week after. I can guarantee somebody from our GR team is going to be on that show to break down some of these trailer bills. Want to talk to you about what happened today on Capitol Hill and how it kind of leads into something that's happening here in California. Chief executives from 5 social media companies, including Facebook and TikTok, testified before the Senate on online child safety. And according to NBC News, efforts to regulate social media continue to ramp up across the U.S. amid concerns from parents that social media platforms don't do enough to keep kids safe. The tech CEOs reaffirmed their commitment to child safety, and this gives us a chance to talk about a brand new ACSA-sponsored bill, of which became public last week. Now, ACSA is teaming up with Senator Nancy Skinner on Senate Bill 976, which, if enacted, would be the first law in the nation designed to protect children from the dangers associated with social media addiction. Under SB 976, online platforms would be barred from sending an addictive social media feed to a minor without the consent of a parent or guardian. The legislation would also prohibit a social media platform from sending notifications to minors during overnight hours and during the school day without the consent of a parent or a guardian. So much more coming up. That is the ACSA-sponsored bill, Senate Bill 976. Also wanted to point out, as we move towards our guest, last week at Superintendent Symposium, which is a collection of 500 plus superintendents from throughout the state that came out, we heard an interesting data point that the state has 80 new superintendents this year. Now, this morning, EdSource published a story about superintendents in California from the year 2019-20 to 2020-2021. Superintendent turnover grew by nearly 10 percentage points. And we'll show you this this photo, because it was taken at Superintendent Symposium last week. It's a photo of 12 of the superintendents that are retiring at the end of this school year. And of course, several more are slated to retire in June. In that photo, all the way at the end on the right-hand side, and then near the middle in the blue suit, are 2 of our great guests today, and we want to bring them on right now. Mike McCormick is the superintendent from Verde Unified School District. Denise Wickham, superintendent from Ceres Unified School District. Mike and Denise, it's an honor to have both of you here on the show with us. Mike, I just saw something in my office that I had to pull out. Now, as many of our viewers know, I've got football helmets all over the place, and you gave me this gift a few years back that's still sitting in my office. What school is this from?
That's from the Rancho Verde High School.
There you go. The fighting insurance salesman of that high school, right?
That's right. Hey, good news. Their band is going to be marching in the 2025 Rose Parade. So we're super excited about that. Yeah.
There you go. Let me ask both of you, because both of you were in that photo, both retiring after long, illustrious careers here in education. You've also both been members of ACSA for more than 20 years. What are some of the biggest takeaways you have during your career in public education? Denise, we'll have you start.
Okay, well, first, before I begin, I do want to say that I am wearing the color of the winning Super Bowl team. So I did that purposely so that everyone could see who I'm really rooting for. What takeaways since we started in education over 30 years ago? I've been in education since my 34th year. I started in 1990, and it was a completely different era when I began teaching. Mike and I talked a little bit before the show began. We didn't have standards at the time. There weren't things like the SBAC assessment and the API scores that we all lived through. So teaching was about each child and getting their interests and teaching to their interests, and not being under the scrutiny, the public scrutiny that sometimes can weigh heavily on educators today.
And Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was teasing somebody. 33 years, started in 1991. This idea of no standards and really building relationships with students and giving each student just what they needed, I think was a completely different environment. Then I think about the changes with No Child Left Behind and this really prescripted, almost page by page pressure in terms of lesson plans and year plans and staying on pace. And, we always had pacing guides, but the accountability was really ramping up. And then, here we are post-COVID. And I was just speaking to one of our high school staffs this morning. I was saying, like, look, I'm not going to stand here and pretend that I know what it's like to be a teacher in a post-COVID environment, but I have a tremendous amount of empathy for you. When I started teaching, we had chalkboards. They were these old things, and you held this little thing in your hand. And, here we are today thinking about these large language models and generative artificial intelligence and the disruption that's bringing to our overall society, but it's making its way into our classrooms as well. We've got kids using it, we've got adults using it. And so when I think about those kinds of shifts, I'm super excited about what the future holds.
Thanks. Denise, you've been with Ceres Unified for 15 years, which is amazing. How have you seen the district grow over the past decade and since you began your time there?
We were really growing when I first came to the district. We opened several new elementary schools. We opened a new comprehensive high school in 2005, opened a new middle school. So we were growing by hundreds of students every year when I first came to the district. I was in HR for many, many years, so hiring was robust. We were really pounding the pavement and getting the best teachers that we could, and just we would have interviews going on all of the time. Of course, now times have really changed. In the past 3 years, we're experiencing declining enrollment, which is a complete mindset mind shift where we're looking at collapsing classes and really doing more with less. We're not recruiting people. We're trying to retain our own and still provide that high quality education. I think really focusing on the social emotional learning for our students, that wasn't really talked about a lot in 2004 and 2005 when I first started in the district, and now it's an entire division for us. It's really supporting the mental health services. It's supporting families. It's bringing community involvement into the education of our children. So it's very different than it was.
Folks, if you have questions for Mike or Denise or both, go ahead and put those into the comment section. We'll try and tackle some of those in just a couple of minutes. Mike, there was one thing that I noticed at Soup Symposium that I kind of just wanted to bring up before I ask you this question. Now, you're retiring from Verde, but Paris High School is right next door. And Grant Bennett, who's Edgar's former superintendent, but Grant Bennett is also retiring this year. So it's like this pocket of Southern California is going to have two brand new superintendents. You've been at Verde for 8 years now. Tell me about the change for the role of superintendent, for district leader, over those 8 years that you've been there and all of your years in public education.
Yeah, I mean, this is year 27 in Verde, and year 9 as superintendent. I'm taking credit for all of those. And I don't know, when I think about what the job was like when I first started 2015 to what it is now. Kids are kids, and so I think they have changed a little bit, particularly in this post-COVID environment. And I think the job has changed in that it's become a bit more political, I think. And what I mean by that is recent board member elections. I think we're starting to see, and this is not unique, I think, to my area or my region. I think this is happening everywhere, is that we're seeing campaign dollars flowing in from outside the community. It used to be that school board elections were really grassroots campaigns. It was local money. A candidate was very excited if they got the support of either the classified or the certificated union membership, give them a little money for signs and other things like that. And what we're seeing in a lot of places is bigger amounts of money coming in. And I think that's attracting maybe a different kind of candidate that would have run in the past. I'm not sure about that. I still see that, for the most part, board members, they really do want good things for kids. But I would say from the board member perspective, and I'm mentioning these things because I think it influences how superintendents respond and react. And we're in a period of time where I think board members are looking to take a much more active role in the operations of the school district than maybe they had in the past. And there can be lots of discussion about, why that may not be. But I can tell you, I've been going to board meetings in Verde Unified School District for 27 years. That's hundreds and hundreds of board meetings over the years. And so I don't know if this is supported by research, but certainly through my own, personal experience, this is what I've seen is these periods of kind of ebb and flow where boards over the years either want to take a more active or more passive role. And I think we're in one of those periods of time right now where boards are looking to take a more active role in what's happening in the school district. And that could be partly due to, pressure that they're feeling from the community.
For both of you, so, we can't help but notice there's a really incredible group of superintendents that are retiring this year. What do you make of such a large number of your colleagues and of course yourselves choosing to retire at this time?
Mike, do you want to go first, or you want me to jump in? I'll be happy to
go
jump
ahead,
in.
Denise. You go first.
Go, Denise.
People have asked me that, and I've just shared that there's a lot to live for outside of work. And I think that as superintendents, we are 100% invested in our work, and our work takes a great deal of capacity, physical and mental and emotional, and sacrifices to the family. And there comes a point in life that there's, you've got to look at the price that you're paying for that. So I do think that, as I've talked about social emotional learning for students, I think that mental health for adults is also at the forefront, and balance in the position for me is difficult. So I can't really turn it off. I'm attached all the time, and that's as it should be. I am compensated very well to be responsible and to oversee every single piece of the district. So I can't do that part-time, and I can't do that like turn it off on a weekend or if I'm traveling somewhere. It's always on, and I think people are realizing that. So I see a new group of eager superintendents that are ready to take our place, and we are here to support them and encourage them along the way. But I know that our districts will remain in great hands with our boards invested in the right thing, and doing the main thing for kids, and these new eager superintendents ready to take over.
Yeah, I love that. I completely agree with that. And, and I characterize it like this. I feel like I've run my leg of the race, and now it's time to pass the baton on to the next person to, do what they're going to do. Ideally building just like we all have. And I'll say this, at least in my case, being in Val Verde for many, many years, the Board of Education has selected just the superintendent that was needed for the organization at the time. And I fully believe and have confidence this Board of Education will select the appropriate next leader for the district that'll be just right for this period of time that they're going to be moving into. And so I think that, I love what you said. There's periods of time where I've literally said to myself, like, this is taking years off my life. And I think, like a lot of successful people in leadership, it's not only what we give in our service to the district and the community, but in my particular case, I could not do what I have done for all these years without the support. 36 years of marriage with my wife, Kathy, and my own children. People don't realize that, what we go through as superintendents in those really tough times, and there's some beautiful times too, but we have families that are sharing in this with us, both the highs and the lows. And so it's not just what we're doing as individuals. I would say there's a family dynamic that goes with this work because we don't ever turn it off. It's a constant 24/7, 365. You're always thinking, you're always engaged. And that's what we sign up for. And frankly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think, this is how we operate.
It's funny. Dr. Blasi just put something in our chat, agreeing with the conversation, but then asked the question, do we need balance? Or maybe it's just boundaries. And it's so funny because I was listening, Denise, to what you said. I just pulled this out, that you can't turn it off on the weekend. It's really interesting that you're constantly in it, whether you're off on vacation or you're just out of office for anything. You're constantly in that space. So thank you, Dr. Blasi, for that. Mike, you mentioned political landscape, and I want to ask the two of you, because you're in two completely unique parts of the state, dealing with unique challenges. The ever-changing political aspect has had an impact on a lot of educators. So what's your advice to other administrators charting their way through this, but having that lens of doing what's best for students? Denise, we'll have you start.
I think you just said it, is always keeping the focus on what's best for students. And I know that we have board conversations about it. No matter your political party, your political affiliation, that staying the course on what's the main thing for kids and what's the right thing to do for kids. And we've really focused on that board governance. We're looking at the Masters in Governance through CSBA, and just looking at what is the role of a board member when it comes to their own political views and bringing those to the dais. And the board has done a phenomenal job at keeping that at bay and making good, solid decisions for kids. So I know that the political landscape really came into play during COVID as well. And I know that was very difficult on our governance team. And I think that is part of why boards are now wanting to be more involved in some of the day-to-day operations, is what happened during that time period. And much of it was out of our local control. It was being driven at the state level, yet they were being held to a standard by the community of those state mandates. So it's been a tough road for the governance, for the boards.
And Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would just kind of double click on a few points that were made, that I think for new superintendents coming in, it's important to always be clear that what we do is support students, and we want to increase student achievement, and we want to leave no learner marginalized. And I think the idea of a strong governance team that has come together in agreement around a few things that are goals for the district is super powerful. One of the best things my Board of Education did several years ago is they said, look, our number one goal for this district is going to be reading proficiently at 3rd grade. And when a board is willing to come together and set forth a vision, and it's based on a few goals, that really helps orient the entire organization in a specific direction. And it also helps the organization kind of marshal all of its resources, human capital, financial resources, around a couple of things. Because very oftentimes what we see is boards that don't necessarily agree. And so superintendents are trying to manage like 50 different initiatives. And, when we try to do that, that's when things begin to break down, and it's hard for the community and the staff in the district to discern what are the priorities, what is our highest priority, what are we doing. So I think the idea of a really strong governance team, and I'm grateful for those really strong governance teams that are out there, because the benefit is actually to our children. When we've got a few simple things, we really head in the same direction on those things, we get good, solid outcomes for kids.
Mike McCormick is the superintendent from Verde Unified School District. Denise Wickham, superintendent, Ceres Unified School District. Their time in that office that they are sitting in right now, the countdown has begun. Mike and Denise, it's been an honor to have you guys here on the show. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for everything you've brought to our public education students.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks to you, and thanks to ACSA for all these years. It takes great partners to do this work, and ACSA has been a fabulous one.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Folks, if you like what you've seen here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, we invite you to follow us or to like us. If you follow us on YouTube, you'll get instant alerts when we're about to come on the air with breaking news. And of course, you will get a reminder about our normal Wednesday show. If you like us on Facebook, same thing. If you have great stories happening in your school district, we want to tell those stories as well. Go ahead and send those stories, your photos, your talking points, your news releases to Michelle Carl, our EdCal editor, mcarl@acsa.org. Okay, here we go now, Megan. We are not on next week, so it's Super Bowl prediction time. Now, we like to incorporate our viewers in this, and you see a number of them have put their prediction into the comment section. Denise was wearing red today for the 49ers. So let's bring this up, because we did ask 4 of our participants that have been here on the show to give us their Super Bowl prediction. So there you go. Patty Herrera from School Services gave us Chiefs 27 and 49ers 10. Deanna Coulian, Chiefs 24, 49ers 17. Charlie Hoffman, Chiefs 27, 49ers 17. And Edgar, since he's not here, gave us 49ers 28 and Chiefs 24. Megan, your prediction.
Well, it seems like, whoever Taylor Swift is rooting for is probably going to win, but I am a NorCal girl, so I'll be rooting for the Niners.
Okay. I used a very highly technical way of determining who was going to win the Super Bowl. I just went online to one of those randomized with the numbers things, and it laid out the whole Super Bowl for me. I've got 49ers 24-20 victory over the Chiefs. So we'll see if those hold up for the actual Super Bowl. Well, folks, want to let you know we've got our Lead with Pride conference coming up. That is March 17th through 19th in Anaheim. Here's a preview. All right, folks, Megan's got to go. We've got to go too. Don't forget, March 17th through 19th, that is the Lead with Pride conference in Anaheim. Thank you so much for being with us here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. We are live and interactive Wednesdays here on ACSA Facebook and ACSA YouTube. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the week, and we'll see you next time.